Hello, good morning, everyone. Happy weekend. So today we continue on the Spotify tutorial, and sorry, my voice was just a bit down. So we will continue on building the album list and the album detail for the Spotify app. And let me share screen real quick. Let me share screen. Not. Yeah, I think that's the one. Screen two. Yep, I think you all can see the screen. So in the last tutorial, we've been go through the NX workspace structure, and I will go like revisit it a bit when we build the album feature. So at the moment we has the album, like you can see on the screen, and inside the album there's one feature library, which is corresponding to the router on the URL, which is gonna look like that. So you go to Spotify.concatenating. Let me zoom in a bit. I think there's people who are asking for it. So if you go into the, let's go into one playlist, maybe here. You can see there's, if you click into a title of the current track playing, you can go directly into the album view, which is very similar to the Spotify application. I think I'm not very sure. I think I start to use Spotify, my Spotify recently a lot. That's why I forgot. So when you click into this, yeah, it will hit into the album view, and it was like very similar to the playlist view. As you can see, for example, when I click into one of my playlists, the UI is gonna be like very much similar. So there's a title, and there's the type of the let's call it media. So there's the media could be a playlist or the album. So there's a type of the media, and then there's a title, and then there's a description. And for the playlist, the person, the avatar that you're seeing here is like actually the one who created the playlist. But for the album, it is gonna be probably it's gonna be the artist. So you click into it, yeah. So it is gonna display the artist image. So I would say it's more or less the same, and also the control here with the play button, and there's a live button, and there's a download button. So not all of that is supported on the Spotify, on my Spotify yet, with the my Angular version, because um, it quite, it's a lot more detail to put it in. So I'll just, when I release it on for the first version, I'll just try to get it out quickly so that we can all see it. Yeah, so it is like the current playlist view that I am having. So you also has the media type on the top, and then there's come down to the title, and that is when went down to the description, and also the name, and the number of song. Maybe the main difference is like on the grid that you can see. So there's there's a track, like on, there's a list of track for a playlist or for album. So for the album, we don't want to display this row, no, this column album here, and the date added is also not relevant. And if you can see on the Spotify app, they will replace this two column with the number of plays of the track itself. I am not very sure that we can get it on like through like from the API. But we will yeah, we will see just in a minute. And I think we have a question that you use to structure with. So Los were asking, can you go over the command that you use to structure with NX? Like I don't really get it. Like the yeah, I don't really get the like what you mean, because to create an NX workspace is simple with just a single command called create NX F or workspace. I forgot. I just don't do it very often. So you can use it to create a workspace, and then when you start to create all of the library and all of the component for Angular, for example, or all of the module or service, they has the extension. They call it NX console, and so you go to NX console. There's a lot of things you can click into it without having to manually like type it on the command. For example, you had the generated command here, which is most of the time that is what you are going to do. So you can select from the drop down what you wanted to create. And for me, I need to create either a Angular library or a workspace library. And also I mostly will use the Angular component, I think, yeah, component. For the service and pipe, I don't usually use use NX UI to create it, but for mostly for library and component. You will see in a minute, just it's real quick. So I just hide the comments first. Thank you for asking. If it answers your question, then and it's good. But if it is not answering your question, you can just type it again, and then I will try to explain again. Or you can just give me like a private message. Yeah, there's a lot of way to reach out to me, so don't worry. So let's go back to one of the feature that I built last week. I was trying to put it in the live stream, but I didn't have time. So if you go back to Spotify, and initially on the first version, I don't have this browse tab. This one is like I added last week. So you can see for the browse tab, you will has the slash browse on the URL. I'm not sure how to make it bigger, like to make this address bar bigger. I can only make the content of the website bigger. So usually you go to slash browse, and then you will have the list of category. Like there's a pop or raw or top list of the day, or for example. And when you click into one, it basically just give in the category ID, and then I will take this category ID and go to the server and ask for all of the playlists that belong to this category. And the thing was like this category is like I will cache on the store, like on the state management. So if you select one category and then you go back into it, no, I didn't have select it. So I just select top list, and then when I go back, it feels like instant. There's no spinner because I has already stored it on the memory. So if you go to the new category, for example, this dance and electro, click, you see there's a spinner. It's just very like quickly displaying. But if you start to make it like simulate, like just throw the network, you see something happen like easier. So get back to, so when I simulate it to be like very slow internet connection, then it is start to look like very slow to load all of the image. Then when I click into raw, you see this spinner take like at least a few seconds. So it is not feeling like instant, like you just seeing. And yeah, I'll go to the code real quick because in the past stream, I wanted to show the code for you guys, but unfortunately, it's like talking about NX workspace took a lot of time. So let me open the code. So you can see there's a library folder that we talked last week, and then you go into web, because on the app usually there's many more app to come because it is like mono repo. So you can imagine that could be a web app or could be a mobile app and could be also the API. So on the left, we also wanted to group it by the domain, by is the like what it is, instead of putting all of the library like in the root folder. So that is the reason to have this web folder. So if you go into the browse, and you will see the same structure for almost all of the other feature that I built. So there is the feature folder, and for the feature folder is corresponding to the category list and the category details. So these two library is corresponding to define the two components that you're seeing. So when you click into the browse, it will load, it will render the category with the plural, which is the category list. So you see in the module. I just configure when you go into browser. So when you go to browse, it will try to load the empty path, and then it will just render the category component. And if you go into the category, you will see the same pattern. Okay. Category. Yeah. So when it go into the empty path, it will take the category detail, but it was confusing because on the UI was different. This is going to be browse and then browse with some kind of ID. Why it is loading the empty path? The reason is I will not configure it directly into the module, like into the router module. Instead of I was like trying to use lazy loading module, and there's one specific feature to handle it for me, which is the cell feature. So you go into the cell, it is not actually a component. It's just basically a module. And let me close it. So if you go into the cell browse cells module, you will see that when I load the empty path, it is trying to load the category list, which is fine, which is what we are expecting. But then when you try to load the path with an ID, I was trying to lazy load the module for the category component, like category detail component, which display all of the playlist. And if you go inside the category module, it is where I configure the empty path to load the category detail. So the ID is actually come up on the cell feature already. So I think now you will have a clear image how it will configure. And also the whole browse feature was also lazy load inside the root cell of module. So if you go into so it is the cell for the browse feature, which is corresponding to /browse on the URL. But if you go inside the cell, the root cell, like to configure all of the routing, you will see that inside the feature here, I has this web cell route, and in the web cell route, it was doing only one thing. It will say when the browser requests for /browse, which is this one, which is /browse, I'll try to go and load the browse cell module, and it's actually what it does at the moment. When I refresh the page and I go to browse, you see, it will trying to load the browse cell module, and inside the cell of the browse feature module, I configure the router to load the category list when the path is empty, which is what you are seeing on the screen. So when it's load the browse and it try to load the first thing, it will show the category list. And then when you was asking for the ID, the category detail, it will try to load the category detail module. Yeah, and that is a whole configuration, and it's going to be applied for the album as well, because at the moment when I click into this track, it will always like load the album detail because there is the ID on the top. Sorry. But then I also has the like all of my album that I save into my collection. So for example, when I open the real Spotify, you go into your library, you see there's a tab called album on the top. So the album here is like actually my album, and when you into one, it's like one of the album detail, and we can actually grouping all of them together into a same like router like that. So when I try to load the list of album, which is it is gonna display the list of album for the user, which is the current login user, and then when you put in the ID, it is when it starts to load this field for a specific album. And I hope you all clear on that. So let's go back to the code. I think we can start to write some code now. So let me go back to the album. So at the moment in the album, there's only one feature, and it is not gonna work for us because we also wanted to have multiple feature, multiple round when you do slash album. So there's one. Let me maybe I can write something down. Yeah, easier that you can imagine. So when we try to load the album on the screen, it is gonna take the album. Yeah, I think it's just call it album component with the S with the plural, and then when you slash album and then you slash album ID, and then if we try to take the album detail component, maybe it's much clearer like that. So one feature here is not gonna work. So the first thing when we have only one feature and we want to refactor it is like to move it, because the feature here is corresponding to the album detail. So I will try to move it. I will use the NX command to move it to the new folder called detail. And let me do it quickly. I haven't done it for some time, so let's see work. So we have the few option here. So that's the first one is angular move, which is move the whole application, which is not the one we are using. And the next one is like to move either an application or a library. And since the feature here is just an NX library, so we can use it. So use the second one. Okay, so take the workspace move. And then on the UI, it's gonna ask like where are you going to put the library, which is this feature into. So I will put it into web because it is just a library, so it understands that is gonna be under this lib folder. So I just put it the web and then I slash album, and because we wanted to do like album detail, so just do slash detail for now. And the project name is gonna be, usually is try to put the name something like that, web album, and then so album and then feature. Yeah, everything is big, so it's not easy to navigate around. But the one that you are seeing on the console is like it's trying to run, like to do a dry run, which is like it try to run it and to give you the result on the console. And if it is your expected result, and then we hit the run button, and it is when it actually do something. It will actually move this thing into a new folder. So what we are doing now is we just do like preview. So we see the feature now is becoming like detail, and I think it is what we want. So everything we just keep the same, and they asked me to update the import path. So yeah, just do run. So you see now the feature is becoming detail. And what I usually do is I create a new folder called feature. I will type, I mistype everything a lot, so sorry for that. So now we need to bring this detail into the feature, and you should not just take the folder and bring it in. You still need to use the NX command, so it will also reflect it on the import part, which is this one, which is on the TS base. It will also updating the path when you are importing it into the new location, so that everything is going to be in sync. So I recommended you to use NX workspace move for everything. Don't try to manually move it by yourself. So let go back to the thing, and then inside the feature, we bring this detail into the feature. So let's do it one more time. So use move, workspace move, and then now the destination is going to be web underscore slash album, and then feature, and then feature, and then detail, and then the project name, because just now we rename it into the detail, so it's going to be web, and then dash album, and then dash detail. As you can see here, it is like just from top like to bottom. So web dash album and then dash detail. So let's see. So the create here is saying it will create a new folder called detail inside the feature. And yeah, it is actually what we want. So just click the run. It will bring it into the feature. Right. Okay, it's look good now. So we have the detail album component. And the folder, we still call it detail to just make it shorten a bit, but I still try to name the component, and the module is like the name that we are expecting when we designed it. So I just call album, because when you call it with a singular form, which means it's like just a single one, you can put the detail, which is fine, but it's just my convention. So I just put an album and albums, which is a bit tricky if you're not like coming from the country that speak English, but yeah, we get used to it. So now what I want to do is like I wanted to create a new library, to create a new Angular library. So it is and WA, the WL Angular library. So create one. I will call it, just let me bring it down a bit. So call it list then. It's like album list, but I just call the name is list. So the style we are using is like SCSS by default, not by default, but I prefer to use it. So the directory is like we remove the list, and it's gonna, because we just right click onto this feature, so it's taken the web album feature for us. And you can see it is trying to create a new list folder under the feature, which is fine, which is what I was expecting. And you can scroll down, there's a lot of options for you to choose from. And I just usually just select the prefix, which is AS, is shorthand for Angular Spotify. And routing and everything I will do it myself, don't worry. And the simple module name, I'll do it. So the simple module name is like when you open, let me open the detail quickly. So when it is creating a new library for you, you see the album module here. And if you don't specify it is like the simplified name, it will try to create something like web album, the web feature album, which is like still the concatenation of all of the string from the top part. And yeah, I just I'm not a fan of it. So usually I try to just keep a simple module name. And then we wanted to have the strict compilation. So just put a strict. And I think with that, we almost done. The tag here is like for specifying what is the type of the library, and then what is the scope, and there's many more. And you can configure ESLint to say if it is belong to this type of library, I wanted only the restriction list of library that can import from it. So it is going to be useful in the future. But at the moment, I'm not very like using it a lot. My friend Joe will complain a lot, but I think it's fine. We just want to do something real quick, so just to type, and then because it is a feature, so just name it feature. And also I put a scope of web, because you can have a scope of mobile or scope of API. But yeah, that's what I'm putting at the moment. The unit test runner, I usually don't write tests, but I mean it's no harm to we just set the unit test so that we can use it in the future. Yeah, so just set jest for now. And with that, we are ready to just create a new library. So now in the feature, you see that's the new list folder, and inside the list, right? It will by default we just take the module as the list module because we select the simplified name. So let me change it to album with the S. I also need to change the name here. Album. Okay, so look pretty okay now. So what we wanted to do next is we wanted to create a new component that is linked to this module. And yeah, it is what we want because we want to has we are following the single component per module so that you don't have to worry about if this component belong to this module. And it also like promoting the affected build command from NX. That's why we also create a separated library just to host a single module and usually just host one component. And we don't want to put a 10 component inside one single library because when NX run the build and if you configure the affected build correctly, you only wanted to make change and build the component, the code that you change that had been affected to other component. You don't want to build the whole library that contains 10 components because you might just change one and then you don't want to rebuild the whole 10, for example. So that is the reason for having one library for just one module and one component. It's a bit freezing. I'll just turn on the aircon. So now we just need to create a new component. And then the name is like X. The project is feature and then slash list. Also, it's still con list, but I think it's still con list. And I don't need to specify this module. The style is going to be SCLS, same. The chain detection is going to be on push. Everything in this library, in this application is on push by default. And it will reduce a lot of chain detection, which is not necessary, need to be run. And then I will select, actually, because the album list is not going to be used by itself, it's going to be triggered by the route, so you don't really have to do the export here. And when I select the flat, the album is going to stay inside the list folder together with the album module. So it's not going to create a new folder to store the album component. And I think with that, we are good to go. Usually I don't really have to do much here. Skip import, skip test, maybe skip test for now. And yeah, almost everything is fine. So just let's see here. Lib albums, then yeah, it still create the album thing. So I think we still need to select the flat. I think you selected already for some reason. But it didn't trigger the dry run. So because by default, it's gonna create a new album folder and then it places all of the thing. But what I want to have is just an album inside the module. I think it's gonna be okay because I select the flat option here. So we just go ahead and created it. Okay, look good. Yeah, just now maybe the console will just not run the dry run corresponding to it. So if you go into the module, you will have the declaration for the album. And what we wanted to do here is like to do a config. So for some reason, VS Code doesn't really work well with importing stuff. So I have to do it manually most of the time, which is quite weird. So inside the for child, it will expect an array of path. So we just do path, and when it's empty, we wanted to load the album. So to do component. And I think that's, yeah, we're all good now. So we have the album. When it's try to load the first round. And also let's go back to the, okay, so I just remove it, yeah. We all know what we wanted to do. So in the list, we have already configured the thing, the router here. So it is gonna take this part, and for the detail, we wanted to do the same. So at the moment, I was trying to tell the the route is like when it's try to load this thing, I will load the corresponding component. But because we are gonna group them together inside the shell feature, so I can remove that part and then I delegate it to the shell to like for doing it for us. So yeah, you see it in just a minute. Wait, one thing. Let me change to another branch first because we are on the main. So maybe in the future it's difficult. I think I put everything already. Just, yeah, okay. So just take out to a new branch. Elbow. Yeah, elbow. Maybe. Yeah, elbow. It's fine. Should be okay. So we now on a different branch, so you don't worry about like you commit in the wrong thing or you mess up with the main. That is usually how you should do it. You when you start to build a new feature, you need to create a new, maybe it's an epic. If it's too big, just create an epic branch and then you branch it from the epic. And when you start to push stuff into your branch, you can merge everything into the epic branch. And then when everything is ready, you can start to take the epic and bring it to the develop branch or staging. It's your preference, but yeah, that's usually how I do it. So let's see, go back to the album module. So now we need to create a new feature called self. So let me create it quickly. Live, just called. So it doesn't really need to be an Angular library, but it is conventional. So just follow Angular library. Because it could be just a simple, can it be just a simple library? Because it's gonna use some of the router, but it's not gonna use like decorator and component and stuff. So I mean, okay, whatever. Just create a library, like Angular library. Oh yeah. We need an Angular library because we need to import it back to the shell later on. So it needs to be an Angular library instead of just a normal workspace library. So the same, we put the new folder name shell of the new library name shell, and we try to put it inside the directory of feature. So it's going to be in the same level of the list and the detail. And then we go down, yeah, just there's some bunch of options to select from, and usually I just don't select anything. I just config this prefix so that the lint will do the right thing. And then just the same simple module name. I mean, should it be a simple? Okay, just keep it simple for now. Maybe we can change it. And then I think that's it. We're good. And we just need to put a name type feature and then scope. Same web. Yeah, Joe and I will have another separated live stream to go through some of the code and we do refactor. So maybe the tag here we can do the better job, but I think for now it should do the job. So we have the shell now, the shell folder. We just click run, and it's gonna create a new shell folder. Yes. So now we have the shell, and okay. So there's a shell module then. So what I wanted to do here is we need to do a router config here, router module. Sorry, this thing just doesn't work most of the time. I don't know why. I'm not sure. Yeah, my friend Joe says it was because of the VS Code, and when he's worked with web songs, there's no problem, and it just happened to me a lot. We do another for child, and then in the for child here, we has another array, and then for the first one, when it's come down, do we need it? Actually, we don't. We still need it. We want to do lazy loading, so we probably still need it. Actually, let me refer back to the cell. What did I do for browse? I also forgot. So let me open shell here. See, okay, so Yeah, we do the same. So when it's load the path, the empty path, it's trying to load the list, and then yeah, okay, I understand. So close it. So when it is like, so okay, we just create a new object. It's usually the first one. So when the path is empty, right, we want to load the children, and the children is gonna be function that is going to return some kind of import uh, from Angular, sorry, Angular Spotify, and then maybe the selectors for Spotify slash. And then we have the album. It's gonna load the list here, and then we need to do some kind of usually you need to do then because it's gonna return you its promise. But what you can do here is thing is like you can put an async. I think you can do a wait sometimes. Let me refer back to the tale of the browse. I also don't have the very good memory. So we can do async and then you do await, and it is gonna be a bit shortened for you. Okay. So we do async here, and then here we do an await inside this import. When it is finishing importing, we will have the module. But I think we need to update it because we changed the name. So we just need to export from the album module instead of the list.module. So which is just the file that inside the index here is basically the place for you to export all of the component or all of the module for the other libraries to use. So you need to make it correct. And I think let me check the details as well. Maybe it doesn't work. Yeah, the details fine because we had it already. So let me close it and then we do. So now we have the album module, which is what we want. And then in the path where the path is, no, let me do it. So we have the column here, and then we have router unqueue, full. No, it just doesn't work. Sorry guys, so we need to do it. We need to import it. Maybe because my Mac is just 8 gig of RAM. That's why it's so slow. So Angular Spotify and then YouTube. Yeah, no, it's not off YouTube. It is just Spotify and the Spotify. Sorry, sometimes this manual thing is drag you crazy. Then the access. Oh, YouTube. Share YouTube. Okay. And then I have the other option, and then that's configuration. And then I just have the album ID. When I have the album ID, I also want to load the children. Okay, sorry. So it's going to be the same. We just do an async function. And inside an async function, it needs to return some kind of await. So we just await from the import. Yeah, I don't like has the 10 finger typing, so that's why I do typing wrong a lot. But also the keyboard was a new one, so I used to have just the 65%, and then I get to the 80%. Yeah, just remove the number thing, and that's why my hand was not used to it even after a few months. So Angular, Spotify, then slash, maybe not slash, just album. It will suggest so detail, and by then we load the album module. Okay, look fine. So take a look. So it when you load the thing in the path empty, it's gonna take the list, and then when you load the ID, it is gonna take the album. Okay, look good, the album detail. So what we wanted to do now is we wanted to has this shell, the browse shell. No, not browse. It is like album shell. Let me also name it differently. So that you can retrieve it easy here. Right? If you have too many shell dot module, it's been easy difficult to look for it. When you have album and dash shell, and yeah, you know where you're looking for, and it's don't update it automatically as well. So we need to update this. So when we configure the root cell, we need to load this. And now when it is trying to load the album path, like we mentioned before, at the moment it tries to load the detail and it is not what we want. So we wanted to load the shell and not the album module. So it's just the shell module. Actually, we can name it differently. Just call it album shell module. And then here is also get updated. Okay. So let me explain this just quickly so you get the idea. So when it go into the album, it will load the album shell module. Lazy load, yeah. So it's not like do eagerly loading every time. And then you go inside the album shell module. You will see we try to load the empty path. We do also lazy loading because when you load the lazy the list of album, maybe the guy is gonna click into the album detail, but we don't want to make the waiting time to see the list of album is long because maybe this album detail we're gonna take maybe 2-3 seconds. So to load it together it's gonna take long. So we just wanted to do everything lazy loading. So when you go into the empty path, you try to load the list of album. And when you go into the detail with the album ID, it is gonna take the album detail. And I think it's all clear here. So when you go to the album module, we config the same path because at that time it's like when the guy is like slash the album on the browser anyway. So we wanted to load the slash when it's empty, just render the list. And also when you go into the album ID here, right? So because we will configure the album ID on the lazy load module itself, so when you go into the album module, you also need just to configure the empty path because the URL now is going to be something like album slash maybe pop, and pop here is just the category, the ID, and you will have this already. So on the empty one, when you slash pop and then empty, it just try to load the album detail. Yeah, that's the idea. Okay, I think we all good. So at the moment, I think we don't have any links to click on the UI. So just maybe let's start it quickly. So maybe go into the album detail. Okay, so the album detail at the moment is just using the work in progress and just plug in a simple iframe. Yeah, just a simple iframe to the link that you're watching on YouTube at the moment. Yeah. And then we will change it real quick. So maybe just keep the content, content spacing. So the content spacing here is like to make the same kind of look and feel for all of the view for the main view. I'll show you in a minute. So what I does is what I do is just setting some like common padding and maybe some margin. Yeah, I think. But that's the idea. Just some simple padding is will work. So now we're running on local, and then if you click into this, okay, you still see the album ID, which is what we want. So let me change it, save it, then just put name album detail maybe. Because now everything was, I don't store anything on the local storage, so it need to refresh the thing. Okay. We just let me also change it to external platform. Yeah. So when you go into this moment 6, yeah, okay. So now it's display the album detail, and what it does for the content spacing. Let me just show you real quick. Okay, let's just close it. We don't need to debug anything. So in the is a main view, and the content spacing was basically saying just put some kind of padding on top, some padding left and padding right. So it's gonna look and feel the same for all of the components. Like the browse here also has the content spacing around it, or the home also the same. That is the idea. Yeah, okay. So we need places to be able to click into the album. So at the moment on a Spotify app, David has the top nav here. But I think to bring it in gonna take some time. So I just don't do it now. Maybe I just change the library here into playlist, and then I will have another one is like my album, for example. So we can have it quickly. The one on top here is just maybe we can do it in the future. It's not the whole point of today live stream anyway. So let me change this quickly and then we can see it. So maybe what is it? Like navigation. I think it's UI store. So there's a UI like component store which is available throughout the application. And this is where I am configuring all of the nav on the left side, which is the three fixed nav. The below one here is basically the list of playlists that you are gonna have. So I don't need to configure it fixed. The playlist here is now at the moment it's like hard coded. I can basically put in the same but when I need to render also this playlist section, we also need to change the structure here into something a bit more generic, and I don't do it now. So maybe just change it to my playlist and then with the S. Yeah, maybe. And then we do it now album. Then we just do slash album then. Actually, we need to put the S so it look consistent. Right? Yeah, should be okay. So let me go back to the shell and then change it. Otherwise, it's not gonna work. So the path here need to be album with the S. Okay, I think it's now reload, and then we have the new navigation on the left side, and when I click into mail album, okay, so you see there's an album work here, and because we don't apply, let me zoom it a bit, because we don't apply any kind of content spacing, so that's why it is just bring all of the way to the left. But we will change it quickly when we have the data. I hope we're gonna have enough time because I will plan for doing like just 1 hour live stream, but maybe it need to stretch to like 1 hour and a half because we like have like just 10 minutes before we run out of time for 1 hour. So I think it's gonna be taking another 30 minutes. Okay, so now we have the album, and actually at that moment, I think because there's 51 file, we should make some commit, and let me change. Check. Let me add the content spacing. Actually, we don't have to edit, but maybe just do commit with config album raw and cell. Okay. Oh, yeah, just do commit. I think it's gonna fail because we other one there's a lint stage configure, and then we will trigger the lints to run pre-commit. So when you have some error and then you try to commit, it is not allowing to just commit directly to the code base, and enforcing some kind of styling and rule is gonna help a lot. That's why I configure the lint to run when you do pre-commit, and also you should consider to use lint stage, which is this one. Okay. Everything, the phone is too big now, so we cannot see a lot. Maybe lint state somewhere around. Yeah. So when you configure lint state and it try to run lint state only on the file that you made the change, not something else. So it's not gonna run lint through the whole project every time. It's just trying to run your change inside the file that you make changes. So let's see what is the complaining thing that we're putting. Okay, let maybe do it again then. For some reason it just didn't show up nicely here. because Git work. Let me just clear it. Yeah, so we need to wait for the lint to run. So maybe so command output. Okay, so we have the output now. So what is saying, because in the album component we having this ng on init and constructor which doesn't do anything. So it's saying, we don't want some kind of empty constructor or the on init. If it doesn't do anything, we just remove it from the source code. Yeah, so okay, so we just remove it. We will import it back when we need it then. And when you make the change, maybe you need to click this button plus, and then it will stash the file. Okay, because it will trigger the build, so I hear something from the sound from the app. So let me commit. It is not allowing us yet because we still has this on in it, which is unused. So I intended to not remove it, so I can show you. Oh, okay. So it's not like critical. Then it's just a warning. So it is not like if you have some unused import, you need to remove it, maybe. So okay. And maybe because on init is coming from Angular and we use it anyway, so it just doesn't throw an error. But okay, then we just leave it here. So now we have the route configured already. So what we need now is just to take some data from server, and then we need to render it here, like the playlist. So the component is going to be reusing a lot, I think. So we don't really have to do, we don't have to write this kind of component like from the scratch. So okay, maybe just go and then fetch some data. So in order to have some kind of data, we need to store it. And because this Spotify is like very interactive, so you usually after you load the list of album, and then we go back to playlist, and when you go back to album, if you don't want to like reload the whole thing, it might still take the same list of album from the memory. And usually what I do, so I just save it in the memory as well. And if I make some changes, I will force the store to refresh the state management, and then I will have a new fresh data from server. But if I don't make any change to the list of album, it is just a waste if we go back and forth to the server, and then when you go back to mail album, you go to server asking for the same information again. Why actually you can just render the same data on the memory. Okay, so let's put in some feature then. So we need a new library which is for data access. So just create a new data access library. Yeah, just call is actually it doesn't have to be Angular library. So we just create a new workspace library then. Because it is just like some kind of PS file and model, and that's it. It's like NGRX store, and then there's some kind of model, and I think we own Wood, so maybe just do a new data access. Yeah, so just call it data access under the same folder. So under the same web album, so it's gonna create a new folder named data access. And then because it's not an Angular library, so we will have less option. But we still want to do a strict mode, and then just type here it's just data access. And then scope is test environment, just keep it the same. JS DOM is something for Jest to simulate the DOM environment in the node environment. That is relevant to Jest, I think. And yeah, I think we all good. Just let me verify quickly. Okay, look good. Okay, so now in the album, we have a new folder called data access, and in the source folder, in the lib, they just create a new thing for us, which is just a function, and then there's a test. and we don't need on that. What I do is like in the data set, usually it could be some kind of data model that you wanted to use, and also some kind of uh, like some kind of store thing related together. So I usually just put new folder called store, and then we need a reducer. We need a reducer, a set of reducer, an action, and selector for querying the list of album. So let's create a new file. We just call it album dot action. They said we should always consider to create all of the action first, and then when you have all of the action, you start to move on to the reducer to define how the shape and everything look like, and then after that you start to go into the effect, and then we start to write code for some kind of side effect, some action that could potentially introduce some kind of side effect. And then at the end, you need to specify the selector, which is what you really wanted to take from the store. So I just go ahead and create this album action because it's going to be very similar to what I had before. So I just come back to the playlist and I just take it. Easier that way. Yeah, I think lead to go to playlist action. A lot of people saying because you need to write a lot of kind of boilerplate, and it's just when you have a set of action, you can just copy it over again. So you just need to do one example which is good, and following you just need to copy and paste. Or if you feel like it's still too much for you, you can consider using NGRX data or NGRX entity, which will reduce a lot of boilerplates. But at the moment, this is just demonstration of education purpose. So I'll just take the same set of action and then we will create it. So we have the load playlist and then playlist success and then also playlist error. I'll just take the tree, which is corresponding to the album. So when you go to this album slash on the UI, you want to has the list of album here, which is your album. Okay. I'll just copy it first. And then, okay. So there's a create action. And for some reason, VS Code doesn't like all of this import. Maybe, like I mentioned, my library and my machine was just 8 GB of RAM, so it was too slow. But I don't know. Okay, so there's a playlist store. Maybe we just change it to album page then. Album page. Okay. And then the Spotify API here, because when I create the new library, it will just override it in the type here. So I need to remove it and just restart the TS. And then now it's going to take this Spotify API. I hope. Okay, so it recognize the Spotify API. So all of this Spotify API, I'll just take from one package on the type. So we has all of the typing for working with the API. So I think it is type slash Spotify. Yep, that is this package type slash Spotify API. So it is just the type definition for all of the response from the Spotify API, so that we can use. Okay, so we just need to change it to album. All of that need to be album. And then also here. Oh, okay. Seems like we need to put an uppercase. Just do, okay. And here, the album here is not list of user playlist response. This is gonna be album set album for user response. Yep. I go inside. So I think it's not the one. I think it is user album response. Because I already prepared all of the API so that we can just call it later on. So let's open the album.api or /API something. So I prepare this service so that we can just use out the box. So you don't have to worry about configure it. So it is just user save album respond then. Yep, I think we have the right thing. So when we have this, okay, look good then. So now we need to move on to the, okay, so I just show you the doc quickly. So all of the API from Spotify, you can refer into this documentation. And at the moment, we wanted to get the list of album from user save, the one that I'm having. Right, that is the one that I'm having. So it is just basically slash me slash album that I configure on the code that you can see here, album API, which is set slash me and slash album. Right. Yeah, just zoom in. I just zoom in a bit so that you can see it easy. And then it just return the response from this user save album. Yeah. So just close it. So now we need to start to handle some kind of action. So let's go back to playlist again. That's how I do. I just don't. A lot of time I don't write code from scratch. I just look into what I did, and then I can just refer to it. So we just do side by side, so we can see it quickly. So let me create a new album.reducer.ps. So the reducer is like the place for you uh, to describe when this kind of action is happen, what are you going to do with your data on the store? Yeah, basically it's just very simple that way. And if you think about it in the implementation, it's just a function basically. It will take in a current stage, and then there's an action, and you know it's just a switch case, and then you do all kind of stuff inside it. Okay, so we just following this playlist state then. Because I has the generic state, which basically I has a property to store all of the data, and then there is the status, and I can base on this status to either show the loading spinner, or maybe I just show the error, and then I also has the error message, which is now it's just a string or none, which is like doesn't have anything. Oh, hi Dan, thanks for joining. So just go ahead, and then I'll just export the interface. I need the interface here because in the playlist I has a map, like a dictionary that I store a key of the playlist ID to a playlist object, so that to retrieve it easy in the future. So when I go to the web, I load the playlist, and the playlist on the right that you can are seeing here. No, it's not the playlist. This is playlist. The playlist here and the playlist on the nav is basically just the same data. I don't do two queries to fetch all of that. I just do one query, and then when you go into the playlist, right, I wanted to take this playlist detail quickly. That's why I also has this map, so that I can retrieve the data instantly instead of going to the list like through the array and then do the find. I just do map.get, so it is just like instant, like O1 over 1, which is, you understand all of that. Like it's not O(n), it's going to be O1. It is faster. That is the whole reason to have this map. But now I don't have this map yet, so maybe just do a type. Okay. No, sorry, not. So I just call it album state then, and then it's not gonna extend. So the type need to be do something like s. Okay, so to do an interface easy. Interface and then it's gonna extend from the generic state, which for some reason it also don't like it. I don't know why. So Okay, we need to import it manually then. Generic of something. So just import the generic state from Spotify, and then data. Is it like model? Yeah, data access model. And then there's a Spotify API, not Spotify API dot user save double response. I think it's rapid. So I just create a new album set that extend from generic state. So I already has kind of the data property. I has status property, and also I has the error property. Good question then. I don't I don't use entity yet because this is just a simple project, and at the moment everything is look like a list, but I also need some kind of custom data structure. So I don't put entity yet, but I think it's easier to show you guys how to write the reducer like purely with just an array and stuff, and then from that moment on we will migrate that into entity adapter. Is going to be easier for you to understand. So that is my reason. So first we need to see how it was written like originally, and then we move on with the more advanced capability that the ecosystem supported. I think it's answered your question. So just do cons initial state, initial state, which is having this shape of this album state. And here I'll just do this one of this is none. And error is also none. The third is pending because I don't do anything yet. Maybe it's not a good name, but I don't do anything yet. So now I just do cons and then album reducer, which is using the function create reducer from NGRX, and then it's just plug in. The first one is the initial state. Let's put in the initial state, and then just a loss of ons, ons like argument, so that you can handle different action based on the on. So we usually like before we have to do all of this squeeze case and before we just return the state. So now they just introduce the ons, which is easier for us. So just do the first on. Then we take the load album. Okay. And when you has the load album, the next argument is gonna be you can take in a state, and then you can get some kind of like data from the action, like you want to. So for this load album, it's very simple because we don't support infinitive loading yet. So I haven't passed in all of the parameters like offset and limit, but yeah, we will do it eventually. But now just keep it simple. So I just call load album, and then it will take the current state, and then it try. So now we wanted to just say let update my state and just keep whatever the state is having, and then putting in the error is none. We just wanted to clear the error when you fetch the new data, because in the use case when you fetch data and then it's error and then you retry, you wanted to clear the error message. That's why we try to also put the error none here, and then the status is like it starts to be loading, so we just put loading in the status. And then the next action we are going to do is like when this load album is come back to us with the data from the server. So we just take the load album succeed, and then also inside there's a state. But then now we need to also take the response from the server from the action itself. So you can take in the second argument, which is the prop, and then you can destructure it, like destruct it already. So okay, so just put it this way. I think now we just need to okay, we need to take the album. Okay. So basically here it's just basically the prop that you set. Okay, so it is the prop, and the prop here you define as the album, has a key album with some kind of data which is coming from Spotify. So let's go back to the action so that you can like connect it easy. So here we say this action is gonna accept like a prop with, basically it is an object has one key named album, and the album here is basically another object with this shape coming from Spotify. So we will take the prop here, and you can extract the album from the prop. That's the idea. Then also because we do immutable, so we need to return whatever you are having and return into the new object. If you feel like you wanted to use like immer, and you wanted to do just basically something like not this spread a lot, you can do just state dot like data dot error equal to none. So you need to configure it to use with immer, but at the moment I think I don't have it configured yet. So immer is basically it's just the syntax you write. It look like you are mutating the object. Mutate basically it's just changing the object, like you update the object. And immutable is basically you wanted to give the new object every time you like doing an operation, so that it is pure. So if you mutate the object over time, at the end you call different function, like no, you call the same function over time, it's gonna make the object differently. But if you do like return a new object over time, it's gonna be pure. So immer is basically saying if you still prefer the old syntax to mutate the object, but still wanted to have the capability of immutability, so you just configure immer. But at the moment, I don't have it configured yet. So let's still doing the old thing. So when it's come back with the album, we need to update just basically status now is completed, which is like succeed, right? And then the error is also none because just set it to make sure no, it's not none string, it's none. And then need to update the data. That's the most important thing. The data is gonna be corresponding to the album here. Yeah. Because when we configure the state, we were saying, just take in the list of album and save it to the store. And now it just update the data key. And when there's an error, the error is going to be easy. Actually, my friend Châu, one of the admin of Angular Vietnam group, he helped me to write a like RHS operator. So actually, we don't really need this on like error. We don't really need the error action anymore, but it is gonna come in like a few weeks time. We will have another live stream, and then we can plug it, and then I can see it. Sorry, after talking for a while, my voice is dropping. It is like my English after maybe like half an hour talking, it just came down so low. It's like that. I just cannot keep like my normal voice. Sorry guys for that. So on, then we do reload error, and then here we take the same thing as the state. And we need to return something. The return something because we return an object, so we need to drop the parenthesis. And then there's a status. We need to update status. So just follow the same thing. We update it to error, and then here we also update it. Error status is error, and then we need to update the error message. Do we have the error here? I think we have the error. I also pass in the error, so yeah, just update the error message. Okay, I think it's all good for the playlist, for the album list. Okay, then maybe now is the time to actually configure the effect so that when this load album calling, because now we just basically update the the um, the store. So we need to actually make an API call so that we have data from server, but we don't have it yet. So usually that part is gonna store, like it's not, no, it's not store. It's like it is gonna be stay inside the effect, which is another package from NGRX. All of that concept is quite complicated at the beginning, but when you get into it, so just look in for NGRX effect, and it is the um, it is the kind of provide you the way to interact with service, like with maybe third-party API, and something that can do can can make thing like some long running tasks, like the long process like WebSocket, and also I think also can use effect so that your component is easier to test. For example, if you do the HTTP fetching inside the component, you also need to mount the service and stuff. But when you have the effect, you just dispatch an action called load album, for example, and then you only test all of the service and everything inside the effect itself. So you really need to mount the component and stuff. I don't really write tests, so that is the idea that I understand. And all of the unit testing, I also will have a new session with my friend Châu. If you don't know, I mean, if in case you don't know what is like who is Châu and Tiệp, is that they are the two admin of Angular Vietnam. And sorry for for change the topic so quick. So that is Tiệp, which is one of the GD, the first GD in Angular in Vietnam, and the second one is my friend Châu. And the two of them is the admin of Angular Vietnam, and they are very strong on Angular. So a lot of advice I was asking from them, a lot of time. So upcoming, there's a lot of interesting topic like unit testing, refactoring everything, and bring in thing into component store instead. And yeah, I hope you will also watch it in the future. So too much too much thing outside. So come back to the effect. So yeah, in short, it is basically there is the place to listen to all kind of the action, and then it will react to the action that you are like you saying. I wanted to do something when this action is happening, so effect is gonna do it for you. Uh, So let's create a new effect. I think just copy the code. I also forgot. I think that's the there is schematic to create a new effect, but I don't usually use it. I just get used to all of the do it manually. So do it manually, sometimes it's tedious, but it helps you to remember the syntax. And if you have everything out of the box, sometimes I mean, in daily life, in daily job, you don't really have to care about it. But if you go for a test, like for an interview, for example, and the guy asks you to write simple command, simple application with Angular, and then if there's no schematic and everything installed for you, it is difficult. So at least when you write it manually, sometimes you will get the benefit from you remember the syntax. Whereas do you want? It's not necessary because now the tooling is very strong, but it is good that you understand it and you remember it somehow. So I just create a new service. It doesn't, it needs to be provided. And then just call it playlist. No, it's not playlist, sorry. It's album effect. So it's not service anymore. So inside the constructor, I just do inject the action from and the action. Yeah, and then there's no action here. Okay, then just okay, I need to import it then. Import. This is from NGRX. Yeah, it's from NGRX. And the action here is just wrapper action of an action. And I also need my private album API, which is the one that I show you just now. So I need this album API service, and then I need to import it manually. Yeah, which is not API. Okay, I think I remember the syntax quite correctly. So now we need to create a new effect. We just call it load album. And what is that is basically we just create a new effect with it. And it is like it just like in the as a sort. It basically it's like the how say like observable generator. It just take in a function, and then you just return something. And what I wanted to return here is I wanted to take this action, and then I wanted to check if this action is of type load album action. Okay? And then when it is the load album, I wanted to do something with this load album thing. And what it is. So you can see here, I am trying to also when I call the playlist, I wanted to check if there is the playlist already inside the store. So if there is no playlist, that is when I start to fetch the data from server. But if there is, so this filter will return phone. And when the filter return phone, which means that the observable will not emit any new event, so it will not go down into the merge map function. And it will only triggering the load playlist only when I just call it when the store there's no data. Yeah, that's the idea. Alright. Wow, sorry, I need more water. But here we don't have the selector yet, so we just not put it in now. So maybe we just bring this uptime to new line, and then okay. So when there's this action, I wanted to do something because this after this uptime it is gonna return you. We cannot simply map because it's gonna give you like an observable action. So if you want to take the action out, you need to do like higher, what do we call it, like HOC, higher observable operator, HOO. So you need to do all of this thing with map at the thing like sweep map, exhaust map, or like merge map, concat map. The difference of all of that, you can go back to Angular Vietnam. Things that is sorry, Angular Vietnam. We have one very good I think article for that. I think it's like SOO entity. But too bad it is in Vietnamese. So if you understand Vietnamese, you can find all of the different from street map and all of the merge map. But yeah, I think it's quite tricky to get. But in this scope of the live stream, I just don't have the time to explain it for you. Sorry. So we just take the merge map, and then once there's a merge map, we will have the action here. But the action on the lost album at the moment, we don't really need anything from it. It's like we don't insert it on any prop because we don't pass down any prop through this action. So if you start to pass down more like query parameter, like you want to take the list of album from the offset 50, for example, then we might want to use this action. But now we don't really need it, so I'll just take it empty. And then here in the merge map, I'll need to return a new observable. And sorry. So just take this album API and then do get to the save album. At the moment, I am taking in the optional parameter. So what is this sound? I just hear something. Not sure what does it mean. Is it something that someone is commenting? Okay, anyway, just move on. Okay, so we have this one, and inside the guest user save album, we usually wanted to do some pipe and handle it inside. If you do it outside, there could be some consequence, and that part I will not like. I'm not an expert on that, so I will not explain today. I will ask my friend to join next time, and then he will help you to really understand it. So when I do the map, I will have the album. Don't worry, the error will go away when we start to head it. And when I have the album, I wanted to return the album load, album succeed, and I just press it in the album. Okay. Okay, so it's an object of album. And also when it is error, right? Yeah. Here's hash error. At the moment, we don't handle the error action yet. So I just return empty observable. And now I think we are on good. So we have the load album effect, and then when we trigger the load album, it will start to call to the server. And then when it has the sorry, I think it needs to be outside the map. And when it's finished loading from server, it will dispatch. No, it will return an action and will dispatch it as well. And when this error, it just doesn't do anything at the moment. Okay. So now we have the effect, and then okay, that is a playlist effect. We are 30 minutes less than planned. I think I will try to. Okay, so today we will try to display a list of albums when you go into this UI, and maybe next week we will continue with the album detail. Then it seems like it takes more time than I was planned, because it's happened. It looks simple. It's just there's some piece of data, and then when there's data and you just render it on the UI. But when you start to plug all of these tool together to have it display on the UI, it could take you quite a lot. It is not like simple. You just inside the component, you just there's a observable. You just create a new observable, and then you can display it quickly. But what we wanted to do now is a clean way of doing it. So I hope you understand. Okay, so we need to register the effect. So let's go into the store. So we need to export all of that first. Just export from all of from top to bottom. We will export the album action. And we export the reducer. Reducer, not reduce. Okay. And we export from the effect. And now we need the selector, but okay, that we. So now when we export from the lib, we just take everything from the store folder. Okay, that you can see here. Yeah, look, okay, and then what we wanted to do now is we wanted to also register it. So if you go back to the browse, feature browse cell, we also register the tool feature. We also need to register the reducer here, and also we also need to register the effect in the cell itself. So let me also create a key so that we can retrieve it easy. Let me go back to the what is it? Is it inside? Yeah, reducer. So just create a new key, and I will call it album feature key, and it needs to be a font of album. just a string, doesn't really need to be any fancy, just a string. And then go back to the album shell. We will need additional configure for, no, it's not here, it's here. So we need store module. And then, okay, whatever, it still doesn't work. See, that's why we spend a lot of time on today's live stream, because it just doesn't get the auto suggestion. It will bring the town a lot more. Store module, and then we do for feature. Okay. Now we just need to give a name. The name is basically, okay, so I just close it first, because you know, just now there's a music playing. So there's a for feature, and then I will put in the album feature close. Then doesn't work. Then I need to import it from the data access. Data access. Modify album data set. Okay, here I have it. So I can import it from there. So I need this feature key. I need also the reducer. I think I don't export. Okay, I spotted it. So I just do album reducer. Okay. Feature key. And then album reducer. Then we move on with the effect module. Then we do just for feature. And inside, it's gonna take the effect. This is an effect, and I'll just take in the what we call it. Sorry, I forgot. Album effect. Yeah, okay. So for some reason, after I import that thing from NGRX, so then VS Code start to understand about the context, and then it can give me the suggestion, but it is not before. So yeah, what can I do? Okay, I think we are good when we register it, and now what we wanted to do is just to basically select the album, and we wanted to just display it quickly to see. We win this part an action to load an album, and then we wanted to just take the album from the store, and then we will render it. And after that, I think we can end the live stream today. We will continue next week maybe. So let's go into the, actually forgot. Yeah, after do coding for too long. So album.selector. Yes. And then, okay, I forgot. Let's go back to playlist. It's I just don't really remember what I wrote last week. Is it like category? Yeah, category. Category is selector. Yeah. Okay. So we can just do the first one is like just take the album state, which is the whole slide of the album feature. So if we will utilize the create feature selector, and then we just pass in the key, and then we pass in the type of the thing. So we have the album step, okay? And then we just pass in the key, which is the album feature key. So now we have it. After we have this album step, we can start to just export, and you can take like the whole thing. This one, it can be, you can call it like VM, to just take it from the, like take everything, and then we can render it all in one shot. But usually I just do all of that so that I can reuse. So I will have get the category, and then I also have the get category loading, and most probably I will also have the get category error. But yeah, so we just take one, do the easy one so that we can move on. Just do get album. So it's gonna be, we will you create selector for that so that we can have the memorize, which means that if the data, because we are gonna pick from data, right? So if this data is not gonna change, we don't want to trigger change detection. And if no, it's actually it's not there yet, I think. So if this data is not gonna change, this album is not gonna fire a new, like we not emit a new value, so that we don't, because we are gonna use a sync pipe anyway. So if the observable don't emit a new value, we will not mark the component for like for chain detection, to run the chain detection on this component. So we will save a lot of unnecessary render. Because store is like things get updated all the time. When you update the let's go back to the state of the reducer. So when you like update this, the whole object, which means that it will trigger the chain for this selector normal. If you don't use create selector, because the whole update has been updated, the whole object, the whole state has been updated. So it also need to trigger the chain here. But with create selector, because the data is not gonna change, so we are saying if the data is not gonna change, I don't want to get the update from, so like from the state, because it's just gonna fire a lot, and state change is like happening all the time. So okay, so we have the get album already, and then now all we wanted to do is to export it, album selector. Okay, and then now we just need to go inside the album list component, and then we will okay, so now we need constructor. Then we need to inject the store. So recently they has the concept of component store, which means that all of this, no, you should not inject the store directly, I think, but you need to move everything into the component store, but it will result in more code to write. So now I will make everything simple. I will just inject the global store into the component, and then inside the component, when it is in it will also dispatch the action to load the album list. And after that, we will start to have the data to play around with. Yeah. So let's do it. So there's a store. Let's store. Okay, store here. It doesn't work. So just need to import it from back. Okay, so we need to implement it, and then just need to click into the button to have the method. And then when it is just init, right? You wanted to do this dot store, not this branch right away. You wanted to say, just load the album from here. You need to also import it, because now it doesn't work again, the auto suggestion. That is why sometimes it's quite frustrating. If I what is it? Is it like data set? It's data set. So we saying when the component is like start to render on the UI, I wanted to take the list of components, and what we are having now should have is like it to has it album, and it is gonna be equal to this dot store. Or for some reason I need to put it down first, and then back later on, and we do pi as a pi of select. Now just set get album. Okay. Now I can bring it back. Yes, for some reason, when I put it on top, and VS Code doesn't recognize the variable inside the constructor, which is so weird, which is, I think it's like a massive bug. Whatever. Okay, so now if I just take this album, and then I'll just drop everything inside of content spacing. Then I should take this album and do async pi, and we do JSON path. And technically, you should see all of the data on the UI. I hope. you didn't see me testing. I mean, I didn't also prepare for the live stream. So all of that is like I write with you guys. So go to album. Oh, it's none. So something is not working as expected yet. So go to album then. It is still none. So maybe we don't dispatch. We haven't dispatched an action to fetch the album. Okay, so there's an error. Oh, we dispatched it, but then there's an error, which we try to pass in this object. Oh, okay, okay, we get it. Let's go back to the album. Yeah, because the f config here is okay. So maybe let's just take the. We need to take the base URL from it. So it's not just the f config itself. I understand. So because the f config here is the whole object, so that's why you see it is say displaying the object thing. So now when you go back to album, yeah, so you see that there's slightly delay, and after just like maybe 1 second, the data is displaying, which what we wanted to do is to display also the spinner, but okay, maybe it's something else. We can do it later on. So now we just wanted to go in and then render it so that it look like this playlist. And I think we can just reuse the code. Maybe let me open playlist and see what I did there. So let's open the playlist. I think the playlist. Oh, I have the playlist list. Okay. Yeah, well, maybe we don't need to reuse it. So playlist list is like it's been reusing between this component, and then when you go to browse, and then you go into, it is the same component, which is this playlist list. So it's like you don't have the two component, which is render the same thing. It's just reusing the same. Just the data outside we pass in was different. So let me open the playlist list. I think it's what I call playlist list component. And what it is like it just take the data and then it's just using the media component. This is like the one that I will design at the beginning, so I know, you know, this kind of UI is going to be reused a lot. So we can, so for playlist, the name here is going to be K-pop something, and then there's a description. But for an album, the name here is actually the name of the album, and then the tag here is just maybe the artist name, I think. So it is, if you think about it, it's going to be very generalized. So you go into the media component, you will see there's a media cover, and there's a lot of things I put in. So I just put in something sound like very generic. So there's a title, which is a big one, and then the description, and then there's a router URL, and also there's a URI, which is the special URL, like URI, which is like something that I need to send it to Spotify so that you can play music for it. So there's a toggle play, and okay, so we just need to, so what we will do now is to render the album, and then I think with that we will end the live stream, and then we continue with all the rest of the stuff maybe next week. So this easy then. I just copy it. The common grid here is like a class I was using in many places. So it just trying to repeat. It is going to be just a grid and try to repeat all of this grid item inside, and the minimum width for one item is going to be 180, and then if there's more width, it will expand to 1 FR, which is like the the unit when there's more space, and then it will divide it by the number of items that is displayed on the UI. So okay, I think it's almost there. We can almost render everything. So just take in that thing, the whole thing, go back to the album. So it is like when you start to have all of the shape, the component ready, it's just the underlying data the underlying setup was taking some time, but when you had it, the template part was gonna be easy. Yeah, okay. I will has instead of playlist, I will has album. Then I'll just instead of if here I just take sync as album. Okay. I need to import this AS media because, like I mentioned, it is like one component per module, so I need to import it in order to use it. So I think it's like just media module. But okay, again, we have a problem when there's no suggestion. That's why we need to import it manually. Yes, start to look good now. Then that's an album. That's this item. Then I think it cannot be playlist anymore. It needs to be album. And then the title. I think the album here, because they will give us more data like usual to album. You see, there's some more thing. So that's the added art, and there's a album object itself. So maybe I just call it item so that it's gonna look easy. Otherwise, call it album and album. Just okay. Album item dot album dot title dot name. Okay. Then I'll just do this URI. Okay. Look very good. Item dot album dot description. No. Artist. The artist is gonna be tricky because it is gonna be the artist here is gonna be an array of artists because one album could be a collaboration of different people. So the artist here is not just a string. So for now, I'll just take the first one, and then it's just for this purpose of showing you guys. But in reality, maybe you should not do it. Okay. So I just take the name of the first one, and we test also the image. I also try to take the first one of the album, and then the route URL is like the route when you click into it, it will bring you to the into the album like detail. So okay, to do it quickly, just do album, and then and it's not the good way to put it, but I will refactor it later on. So now it's just for some demonstration purpose. And this toggle play is like when the button is clicking. So I will also take this item dot album UI. Okay, and then I'll just type in I just copy the function because the function here is basically I will emitting down, emitting from the media component upward, and then now I need to inject the service to actually play the album, play the media. So this part was just copy. If we had a better way to do it, but we can copy it. I think it's like inside the private list. Okay, so I just copy it. There's a player API service, and then I just need it. Okay. Look, I think we are almost there. So we need this player API, and we are there already. There's only player. Okay, now it's understand. So that's very weird. We need to subscribe inside the component, and Joe told me that we can omit this subscribe if we are using component store, but it's going to come later on. So now I expect when you click album, it is not going to display the everything in one shot. So it want to take 1 second, but then you click it, it should display the same UI like we are displaying here. Yeah, you see. So it is actually not a lot of work to make it work, because it seems like I have the UI already for other stuff. So it looks like it is not a lot of work, but when I start to build this component, it takes me like at least an hour or maybe more. So maybe you can play. Yeah, it's working. Yeah, it's working fine actually. First time. So now we have the ID detail here, right? Okay. Oh, oh, that is strange. Router album. Oh, just slash ID. I don't need. I don't need this. I don't need this thing. Yeah. I just need the ID. So after it's refreshed, I think it's gonna work. So let's go into mail album. See? Oh, for something it doesn't work. This click. Only this album doesn't work. Oh, okay. Okay, maybe try this one. Yeah, it's working. And maybe we can just add in the loading quickly because as you can see on the playlist component, it's just a few line code. There's only this spinner, and then if we have the loading, it's gonna show. Very simple. So we just add the loading, the spinner, and then we finish. So let me add it in then. Common grid is outside the common grid, and then we need to import the spinner module. No. We need the is loading, which we need to take it for selector. I go back to this to get album. Okay, just take another one. Putting. So the loading from it. Oh, okay. I think I have the selector EQ. Yeah, because it's gonna repeat a lot, so I create an EQ for that. Just gonna call it like the EQ from Spotify and then EQ. Okay. Then I think I need to see. Okay, just take this doesn't work. Just take the it's loading. How does it work then? I forgot. Let me find it quickly. Right, category step. Okay. What's wrong, man? Okay. This one. Okay. So it take the state and then in the loading function, it just take in also the whole thing. Just take in the generic state of unknown type, and then I just take the status from it. Yeah. Okay. So let's finish it. Okay. We are almost there. We will refactor the code a little bit more later on, but I think for the purpose of today, I think we're quite good. Okay. Okay. This is album loading, and then this is loading. Okay. So I can just take this is loading, and then that's it. So if it's true, then it will display the loading. If it's false, then it just don't display it. And when it is false, I was expecting it need to be either has the data or it could have some potential error, and we will come back to it later on. Okay, so let me please refresh. Hold up it. Yeah. Okay, you can see it. You see it just now. There's a loading. Right? So maybe we. Right. Okay. So we it's kind of work, and maybe just play it. Yeah. It's just when you click, we need to start to build the album detail, and I will create a new live stream, and then we will do it next week. What do you think? And I think that is the end for the live stream for today. It's quite long. It's like almost 2 hours. But thanks everyone for staying until the end. I hope you enjoy it. I hope you understand my Vietnamese English, and I hope you get the idea of how you can configure the feature configure the route, configure the router, and configure also the store with breaking thing apart. And when you need to just render it on the UI, and when you start to has all of the UI component ready for you, the thing is when you have the data, it's going to be just a piece of cake. So that you can see that we can just render it after we have data just like 5 minutes. But to have all of this data set up, and yeah, it could take us maybe half an hour or an hour. But I think overall and over time, it's going to be a good structure so that we can stick with it. And yeah, if you have any questions, just feel free to you can reach me on Twitter. Actually, okay, let me show the Twitter. I don't want to do too much advertising, but let I show you the Twitter. So I think that is my Twitter. Okay, so that is my Twitter at Tuấn Trung Võ. I will also include it in the chat. And if you have like, specifically any question and you are struggling on some problem, you can visit Angular Singapore, which is my new group that I just started like in the past few months. And you can book a free meeting with me, actually with us, but at the moment it's like with me, so I can help you on troubleshooting or like maybe talk you need some advice or suggestion on your current architecture. You can just go ahead to twitter.com/angular-sg, and you can find the link so that you can book a free meeting with me or with us, and we can talk. And thank guys, and have a nice weekend. Thanks Luật, thank Dan, and everyone for joining today. Thank you so much. And with that, see you next week. We will build the album detail next week. Bye bye.